I can't believe that rape has become about your rape is less violent than mine. Where do we go next? Where can we find justice? What happens if it happens to us? We just are playing a game of less unsafe, less discriminating against women. There is no superlative that can be used. You can't say this is the best place to work or this is the safest city.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me. It has taken me a while to wrap my head around the brutal rape and murder of this young doctor in Kolkata's RG Kar Hospital. The city has been on the boil since then. There have been many civil society protests, and of course, politics has come into play as a reaction to the way the West Bengal government has handled the aftermath of this crime. We know that the case is with the CBI. We know that the investigation is on. The Supreme Court has stepped in and taken suo motu action and cognizance of the fact that doctors went on strike. And there are a whole lot of things that have come into being since this crime was committed. Today, I want to get to one particular aspect which is central to this story, and that is gender violence. To discuss what Bengal is feeling, to discuss what is the way forward, and to try and capture emotionally the space that civil society is occupying today. I'm talking to Malavika Banerjee. She is the founder of Byloom, the director and founder of the Kolkata Literary Meet, Calcutta's Literature Festival, and also the co-founder of Game Plan, a businesswoman and former journalist. Malavika, thank you very much for making time. We are not talking in happy circumstances.
No, we are not. And as a woman, as a Calcuttan, as a working woman, as a mother on various fronts, I'm truly upset about what happened that night. It shakes your faith in all that has gone by in your life. So you start to wonder, were the things I took for granted while I was roaming around as a young journalist or as a young businesswoman, was that pure luck? And clearly it might have been pure luck. You can end up at the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's sadly what happened to that young doctor. My heart goes out as a parent to her parents. Their loss is irreparable. Their life is never going to be the same again. And that's what I think most of civil society feels, that, she is front and center. Her parents are front and center. And the surround sound that is now engulfing this case is completely inappropriate. And that is very disappointing. That's why people are lashing out. Their anger is going against celebrities for what they've said or not said. But I think basically at the base of all the social media anguish, I won't call it outrage, is the fact that a young life was snuffed out and we don't seem to have answers.
When you look back, you use the word luck. Do you think that we are just lucky, or do you think there's something different in 2024 in the larger social context? Because it's not just Kolkata. This particular case is front and center for many reasons. I'll come to that a little bit later.
I've thought about this a lot, this case.
I'm sure.
I wasn't in Calcutta when it happened, but the minute I read it, I knew the reverberations are going to go way beyond what is normal for a murder and rape case. I think about, why do men do these acts of violence? I don't think any 5-year-old, 10-year-old boy wakes up saying, I want to be a rapist or I want to, attack women violently. So what is it in our society? I mean, patriarchy is a term we keep bandying about, but what does it actually mean to make a regular child in 20 years a rapist? And I have to point in several cases. Of course, you do have, I'm not saying rape only happens in a certain demographic. You have rich people there is domestic violence, marital rape, date rape. Sadly, there is now an assembly line of the kind of rapes and violations that happen against women and trans people and people who are viewed as, disenfranchised. But I feel that the lack of equality in the way we progress. So, my daughter will be living life according to certain expectations, but the people around her, whether it's a guard, whether it's a civic volunteer, whether it is somebody who she encounters on the road, has a different story that's behind him. And this lack of this disparity in the Indias that are developing at different timelines is what causes these tragedies to happen. And there, for a large number of people, the easiest way to get some agency in society is through violence and lumpen behavior. The easiest sexual agency is eve teasing at best, and serious sexual violence against women and trans people at its very worst. The easiest way to get rich is to align yourself with what we in Calcutta call syndicates and make money, because there are no career options, there are no jobs. So, it's again corruption which seems the easiest get rich quick way.
So, Malavika, you're saying that besides patriarchy and besides the fact that traditional patriarchal mindsets do still inform the way most men behave across social classes in this country, you're saying that in addition, there is another factor in addition to this patriarchy, and that is the fact that there is inequality, there seems to be a lack of opportunity, and that is adding another layer of violent behavior in gender relations.
Absolutely. Gender relations is one manifestation, but we've become a very angry country. There's a lot of road rage, there's a lot of arguments on flights, we've become this angry nation. People fight aggressively over a bag being placed in a cabin. I'm sorry, I'm giving what I call first world problems, but these are all manifestations of,
and it's your experience. Yeah,
this is my reality, and I can see, even if you go and go to a grocery, there's always some argument over who's in line, who's cutting line. We always are on edge. And the other thing that is repeatedly coming in, I remember reading this really scary editorial when Nirbhaya happened, which tries to trace what could have caused these men to be this violent. And pornography and its easy availability and the kind of deviant, pedophilia, violence, rape are all available on the net, and finding it so easy normalizes it in the minds of those who are impressionable.
So, and there are news reports that rape video searches went up and were available for people to buy, so after the RG Kaur crime. So what you're saying is absolutely, it will resonate with a lot of people, and it draws out the multi-dimensional context, right, of the RG Kaur crime. Though to be, I think we need to put a disclaimer here that our conversation, Malavika, is based on the fact that we are accepting what the CBI and the Kolkata police have put to court at this point in their public findings, right? We are not going down the route of all the other conspiracies and all the other cases that may be getting investigated simultaneous to this rape and murder. I'm just putting it out.
Yes, and also, but having said that, I'm also looking at what happened in Badlapur. What happens every day, and what is the reason for that?
We are recording today. There is a report of 2 young girls found hanging in UP.
Yes, in UP.
So, this is the RG Kaur is, I think, has become so big because of various reasons. I think one is Kolkata, West Bengal, where women are considered very, very safe. Women are considered as having a right to power as opposed to other states. Bengali women, there is a stereotype also, right, of the Bengali woman being very dominating and having control and having agency. The other thing, of course, is that this doctor was in her place of work, which should be as safe as your home. and a place of work which is run by the government. And therefore, if the government is not able to provide absolute security, then who can? So I think that is why the RG Kar case has captured everybody's mind space in the way it has. But violence against women is happening in all walks of life across this country. Tell me a little bit more about how Bengal is feeling, Malvika, because there is a sense that Bengali society is not used to this kind of crime, or am I just romanticizing what we interpret to be Bengali society?
See, we have reached a stage where such a question would obviously lead me to say that we are not even in the top 5 of the most crime against women cities, that unfortunate list. But I won't say we are the safest city or state anymore. I will possibly say that we feel the least unsafe. Sadly, we are now talking in terms of negatives about our country, about our state. And I also would say that, there have been rapes over the last decade and more in Calcutta, in Bengal. So it feels safe because, as you said, generally Bengali women seem to have more agency. I have this poster, it just happens to be there, of Mahanagar, which was directed by Satyajit Ray way back in the 60s, where Aruti steps out of her marital home to, augment the income of the family, and the kind of resistance she faces from her father-in-law in particular, and the way she stands up for her colleague. She faced challenges that were huge and insurmountable then, but violence wasn't one of them. But as an angry society, I think even Bengal, I can't say is safe. I can only say it's less unsafe than possibly Delhi or a city elsewhere in India. But I won't use the word safe anymore. It would be disingenuous of me to do that.
Let's keep the politics aside, because that is playing out and we can see it play out from across parties. But will you give me a sense of the mood of civil society in Kolkata? Because we've seen protests, we've seen candlelight vigils, we've seen universities hold protests. This has gone way beyond the doctors who were protesting, right? So give me a sense of what civil society seems to feel and what it expects to hear from government, because at this point of time there is also a feeling that there is a hard-headedness that you're feeling, whereas that is not what you need at this point.
Firstly, I can't believe that rape has become about your rape is less violent than mine. It is unbelievable that it is not bipartisan, the reactions to rape across this country, and particularly to this one. It started off as a civil society movement. I myself went for one of the vigils. I went to the Karyahat crossing. I saw women from various walks of life, people I encounter in the Tony clubs of Calcutta, to people who live around that area, to even slum dwellers who kind of came and joined. So that was on the day where we later learned there was this huge ruckus at RG Kar where there was vandalism. That was spontaneous, that was anguish, and that was Kolkata saying that, we need to find answers for this case. But after that, there is some concern that the whole situation has now been politicized, and there is, an entire volley of accusations being hurled from one side of the political divide to the other. And obviously that is worrying and not surprising. Because, as I said, an issue that should be so bipartisan. We have reached a level of political cynicism which is very worrying. And if you look at the Twitter feeds of several people in the current government, they kept quiet for a long time. They may have their reasons. Maybe they were in parliament and they couldn't gauge the mood. But I have come to the conclusion that, when a person has a stroke, they say there's a golden hour.
Yes.
Where what you do informs what happens next.
Yeah,
So when a
yeah.
tragedy of this magnitude happens, I think the government has a finite period, a golden hour, a golden day perhaps, where what they do, how they handle it, how they express empathy, all informs what goes on thereafter. So, the ruling dispensation called the vigils a mix of Balm and Ram, which is BJP and the left. But, and she kind of manifested it. It later did become that. But at the start, within the first 4 or 5 days, what we saw in Calcutta was an outpouring of grief which didn't have political teeth. It just had an empathetic heart. And
I
what
think
is
the
happening now is completely different.
I think the point you make very well made about the golden hour and how at best there could have been a golden day in the way the government handled this, or any government handles a crisis like this, and how people then react and manage what they are feeling. There were a lot of iconic images of the Mohan Bagan East Bengal match that wasn't allowed to be
That was
played.
amazing.
And those supporters afterwards, just comment a bit on that.
Yes, I work closely with sports and sportsmen. So to see the fandom of these two clubs, which are traditional rivals, and Mohammedan Sporting, all coming together and expressing grief and support and, a sense of empathy. That's the most important word. That really was very heartening. And I mean, many people say the protest should be led by women for women, and I totally get that. But it is also very important to let our men grieve and let our men say this is not what it should be. So, football fans are typically male. So to see this whole outpouring in the next match also, there was a large poster, and the police, the government have realized that it's all right. Because there was a point at which one match was called off and there were whispers that it was done because the government didn't want another, public demonstration. But I think the government also has realized that they have to accept that these things will happen. And as far as people taking out their anger against celebrities, some people say someone's saying too little, some people say some people are saying too much. I think these are just non-issues, and that's the nature of the beast called social media. But on the plus, it was because of social media that a lot of people gathered, and I hope that kind of civil society activism and whatever has become a dirty word, but a spontaneous protest, I hope it reaches Nobarno, the parliament, wherever, because people have just about had it. Badlapur had a huge demonstration. So it is across India that people are now saying enough is enough.
I think there's also a sense of a lack of faith or trust in institutions, I mean, Kolkata police discredited, handed over to the CBI, but all kinds of questions are asked about the CBI and its ability. Even somebody like your TMC member of parliament, Mr. Shukendra Roy, who questioned the Kolkata police, also says he has no faith in the CBI. I think there is a sort of breakdown of trust in our institutions. Would you go that far?
Anuradha, can you blame anyone for this breakdown in trust in such times? Because I can't. There is a sense of absolute, where do we go next? Where can we find justice? What happens if it happens to us? And that's where people talk about how governments and elections are won on projections and which party can manage their image better. So this is the time for the government, whether it's the state government or the center, to actually look at their institutions and see what can be done better. There is a complete sense of cynicism about kichu hobe na, as we say in Bangla. Nothing's going to happen. That's not what one wants to hear after an incident this gruesome. It has reached a stage where even if it turns out that the original narrative, that it was a lone wolf attack and this is the only person, if that is the ultimate inviolable truth, even then there will be a sense of, was it really that? And that's very sad, because we will never get complete closure then. And as far as the corruption of the nursing home or the government hospital is concerned, are we sure this is the only government hospital this is happening at? We grew up with films and articles about, a kidney being lopped off and sold. So is it so unusual, or is it so beyond the realms of possibility that this is actually more widespread than we think it is? So these should be moments at which we look at a widespread change rather than just pointing fingers between center and state and say, you're bad, you're worse.
Nirbhaya Jyoti Yadav, who was killed so brutally in Delhi, there hasn't been a deterrence that the laws that came out after that crime that has created, because we still see a lot of brutality and death, murder post-rape. I mean, this is something that I think the entire law enforcement, and all those institutions need to start asking questions about, isn't it?
Yes, there's a whole theory that if you make the laws even tighter and even more, punitive, the rapist will kill the woman, because that is one way of making sure that you're not, there's no further inquiry, or it won't be completely thing. So that is there. But you're right, we need to have more teeth on what laws exist. But there is no sense of that. Because if you look at Hathras or Unnao or, even the wrestler case, which is fortunately not rape, but is also very troubling, there is always a sense that there is a shelter of the powers that be.
So look at the Malayalam film industry. I just did a conversation.
This is again counterintuitive. Like Calcutta is supposed to be safe for women. Kolkata women are supposed to be the most assertive. They are independent women at best, often called witches also because they're that independent. But they're very independent. But this has happened. Again, it's counterintuitive. Look at the cinema coming out of Kerala. Outstanding. The best movies come out of Kerala. And this is the murky underbelly of that industry. It is just, so we just are playing a game of less unsafe, less discriminating against women. There is no superlative that can be used. You can't say this is the best place to work or this is the safest city. We can't. And then we hide under this excuse of our population being what it is. So, from the top of my head, I should have checked, but I think Tokyo is the most populous city in the world. And Delhi, I think, is 2 or 3. Look at the difference. So we can't just say that, and it's now decades after independence. We have developed in so many fronts. So this disparity of backgrounds, of income, it's going to cause an unhappy society where the upper half can err on the side of entitlement and the violence that brings, and the lower half can err on the side of want and the anger and frustration that brings. And within these two sides, sadly the people who seem easy meat is women or trans people. So they bear a brunt. So it's a very grim scenario if you think about how these two ends of society are breaking laws with impunity. And I also feel that civil society, schools have to sensitize boys. We have all kinds of changes being made in NCERT books. We are relooking at our history. We are relooking at science. We are trying to make things more, science-based. A lot of the practical science is becoming a part of the syllabus. What are we doing about changing the way people think about women? Because a lot of the way knowledge is going to be reaching our kids is changing in real time. I keep telling my son, you don't seem to have curiosity. He says, why should I be curious? The minute I think, why is this? I just have to Google. So we are in a society where the way knowledge is received is changing. Have we equipped our kids for that? Have we equipped is there digital literacy? I know highly educated people who forwarded me a voice recording which is clearly AI. So what is the difference between fake news, real news? So education has to equip our young population and make them aware of how to deal with women, how to deal with news, because women are taking big strides ahead, but how are the men around them taking this changed role of women in their stride? That is also important. So education is very important. And we are talking about AI. Does AI have no solution for keeping a woman safe when she's alone? I believe heart rates can be, if I wear an Apple Watch, my heart rate is being monitored. How can it be that we cannot create a hotline between every woman and the nearest police station? I believe there was an attempt, but because of the fear that our privacy is going to be infringed, those apps didn't really work. But there has to be a solution, because women should at least have the agency. Okay, I'm in this place which is outside my home. Let me put on this app so that I can be tracked. And there has to be technology is absolutely giving us solutions for everything. Why not for our safety? So I really think that is something that we should work on.
You mentioned your son. So you're a mother to two sons. I want to make it just a little personal here. And that is, is it enough for young men, young boys and children to see women as equal and active, people with agency as much as the male figures in their life? Or is there more active gender sensitization that needs to be done? This whole conversation about beti padhao, beti bachao, this whole conversation now is about educate the boys. And is this education going to be just by seeing more women in power, seeing more women with agency, women who do their own things? Or do you, as a mother of two young boys, say that there is more active gender sensitization that we need to do when it comes to young male children in this country?
I totally think you need to do a lot more. I think it is harder to be a mother of two boys now, because I think the onus is on us to kind of signal that we are strong equals to our spouses, that we are not to be taken for granted, that we are people who work, who have independence in every sense of the term. So that is extremely important, and one of the main things that I would like to do away with, at the risk of sounding like a fuddy-duddy, is casual sexism and misogyny. Or this shadi karke pachhtaya, or BV is a pain, or a dharti pe boj. So that whole sense of, I enjoy a joke at my expense as much as anybody else. But this is so tiresome and so painful to keep hearing this casual sexism and casual misogyny. So rethink our jokes, rethink the use of, when one team beats another, they really raped that team. No, you have to be more sensitive in your use of these terms. These seem like really stupid things, but I have begun.
No, and it's not that men are not raped. So you do need to understand that rape is not acceptable. It's not funny, and it's not at all anything that you can use as a casual term.
No, it isn't. And I am amazed at many very, very sensitive and nice friends of mine who use rape in, like, as one team raping the other at a sporting event. So now I also feel I should correct that person, even if it makes me look really like an absolute stick in the mud, because I feel these little things signal to a young man that, or a high school boy or a college student, that they can't talk like this. And women have to also, call out the guys they are with, their brothers, their boyfriends, their partners, their classmates, and tell them what is acceptable and what is not. It is a big battle. It has to be fought on so many fronts that, it can't just be a better police force. It can't just be sensitized schools. It has to be mothers, sisters. It is a huge battle, but it really needs to be fought.
Let's go back to where we started, which is Kolkata, Mahanagar. this city, this megalopolis. Is there a final thought you want to leave us with from a very Bengali perspective? Bengal is the only state in this country which has a woman chief minister. It has fiery, fabulous women that it sends to parliament, the largest number in proportionate terms. And here we are, talking about the RG case.
Let's just really zoom in onto the girl who tragically lost her life, the young woman at 31. So I think it's important to remember her fight. And I'm sorry, I'm tearing up.
I think it's...
Yeah. And the strength she showed. So let's not remember her last image and learn from her life.
Oh gosh.
Give me 2 minutes. Yeah, to learn from her life that she came from an underprivileged background, that she passed some of the toughest exams there are in India. And her story should tell us what a woman can be. And let's celebrate that. And we can only do that if we get closure.
I think I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for making time and having this conversation. We'll keep
Thank
talking.
you, Anuradha. Thank you very much.
Much done.